This is Controlling the Tongue Part 2 because, well, it's a process, right? And if you haven't seen Part 1, I'll either link it here for you or down below. I'm Lisa, and this is Second Peak Midlife, where we get real about the things that hold us back from being obedient to the life that we've been called to. So we're going to get really honest here. In Part 1, I talked about my getting angry over my husband's talking while I was reading. And when I say it like that, it really reveals how selfish I am. But there's something even deeper under that, because it wasn't about the noise, and it's not even just about the timing or being interrupted. There was just a layer of expectation there, a desire, and I want him to lead. I want depth, and I want him to be leading our morning devotional instead of rushing through the part that we do together with a quick half-hearted prayer. And I was wanting something more intentional, especially when it comes to our faith. And when I don't feel that, it frustrates me. And because he's not perfect either, and he does want to lead. But a lot of times for me, it just comes out as irritation. But underneath that, it's disappointment. And instead of expressing that clearly or gently, I let it turn into something else. I turn it into criticism. And sometimes it's spoken, and sometimes it's not, but it's always felt. And he feels that, even when I don't say it out loud. And I think that in some ways, it's made it harder for him to step forward to lead. What it does to my husband when I speak like that is that it shuts him down, and it makes him not want to lead. Because it's difficult to lead, especially when you already feel like you're falling short. And so that's made it hard for me to admit. And I've told myself that I want something good, that I want something that's right. And the way that I've been responding has not been helpful. I've been holding on to this expectation without extending any grace to him, and wanting him to show up differently without creating a space that makes it possible. And so this is still about my words. It's not just what I say, but it's what I communicate. It's the tone. Again, it's the posture. It's the undercurrent. And I've had to ask myself, am I building something here? Or am I just slowly tearing it down? Because even silence can carry criticism with it, and that's not what I want. And I don't want to be someone who makes him hesitant. I want to be someone who makes it easier for him to step forward. And that means that I have to change. And not just waiting for him to lead differently, but learning to respond differently to encourage him, and to be clear, and to give grace, and to be open. And that's something that I'm still learning, even after almost 30 years of marriage. It isn't something that I've figured out. But, nothing is coincidental. And I was just continuing reading the book by my neighbor's daughter called Letting Go of Perfect by Amy Spiegel. And on page 18 and 19, referring to her husband, she says, "I thought that because my husband and I did things that annoyed each other, it meant that there was something wrong with our marriage. Actually, there wasn't anything wrong with our marriage other than being two fallen humans, and God ordained marriage not as an endless source of enjoyment and pleasure, but as a means of sanctification. We are meant to annoy each other for our own spiritual growth. And as spouses, we give each other opportunities to learn to be gracious and kind and loving and in humility." As she says, "Perhaps our husbands are exactly calculated by him to irritate us in all the ways that we need irritating, and the same is true for us. These things that tick us off, they aren't accidental, they're providential. And maybe it's like the grain of sand in an oyster, that's irritating it to create this beautiful pearl. And that's exactly what God is using, not to make our lives harder, but to change us and to chip away and polish the rough edges of the sculpture that is you. Because marriage isn't just about compatibility, it's not about ease, it's not about always feeling understood. It's about sanctification. It's about being shaped. And that means we're going to rub up against each other and rub each other wrong in all the ways that are needed. And so it's the very things that irritate me where I need the most growth. Patience, gentleness, kindness, humility. And that's not always what I want, but it sure reframes everything to look at it that way. Because instead of asking, why is he like that? I start asking, what does this bring out in me? Why does this bring this out in me? And what is God trying to change in me through it? And like I said, it doesn't make it easy, but it does make it meaningful. And so in the way I speak, in the way I react, in the way that I let things build up in my heart, because the tongue is the tattletale of the heart. It exposes the real you. And it's the easiest way to sin because there's always an opportunity. And this kind of change doesn't happen all at once. It's a trajectory, and it's got me thinking about even small talk and gossip. And I never really considered that talking about someone is evil. I don't think of gossip as talking evil. It's just gossip because everyone does it. But when I reframe that as speaking evil against someone, it changes how I think about it. And if I'm going to participate in that kind of talk. And have you ever noticed that when you do speak ill against someone, it creates kind of a feeling of distance between you and that person that you're talking with? So it happens in those small decisions, the pause before you respond, the choice to soften instead of sharpen, the willingness to say something different, or not to say anything at all, or to even stand up against like gossip. And sometimes it's the willingness to go back and make things right. And it isn't just about words, but it's about what those words are revealing. It's about what's being formed in my heart and in me. And I know, like I said, I'm not going to do this perfectly, and neither will you. But I also know that I don't want to keep talking the way that I used to. I don't want to keep creating distance when I actually want connection. And I don't want to keep tearing down, even in subtle ways where I could be building something better and encouraging others. And that was another thing that I want to emulate about my dad. At his funeral, a friend of his who was a friend during dental school residency, and they kept in touch all these years, he said that my dad was the go-to guy for encouragement. And that's who I want to be. And I think that's the mental shift. It's not perfection, it's direction. It's a heart that's being changed, and the words are starting to follow. And maybe that's where it starts with all of us. Not with saying everything right, but with paying attention to what we are saying and then choosing something different, one moment at a time, with grace, because grace is what we've been given. And friend, what trajectory are you on when it comes to your speech? Let me know down below. And thanks for watching.